And I thought the best way to do this would be to take two cities, I'm calling them City A and City B, to kind of protect the innocent here. Both of these are two Chicago suburbs that were seeking redevelopment. The first city, who I'll call City A, mature inner-ring suburb, affluent, 37,000 people, so pretty good-sized suburb of Chicago, pretty much, the upper middle ring of median home prices, excellent schools, great transportation to downtown Chicago, wonderful, public services, recreation, etc. City B, a lot of the same kind of characteristics, a little bit smaller, a little more affluent. As you can see, the median home price, now $550,000. But basically, these places, I would say, are about as similar as one might get in the Chicago metro area. City A started doing some of their downtown planning in the late 1990s. The city decided that this was very important, and they purchased this car dealership site, relocated the car dealer, because as we all know, car dealers have a lot of sales tax dollars, and we don't want to lose those sales tax dollars, and put them in another location using TIF money as well as sales tax sharing agreement. The city then undertook the cleanup and demolition of the site. They also decided to initiate the market study, which actually we had done, a TIF plan and a downtown plan. So all of this was going on in the early part of the 2000s. So then they said, okay, we're going to purchase the additional site. There was one small site, caused a little bit of difficulty getting that last site, and the city actually did threaten eminent domain. Fortunately, didn't have to do that. So basically, the city controlled most of this site, but there were some pretty significant hurdles for them. One of which, there was a city reservoir on one of the sites with a parking lot over there, so they had to relocate a reservoir. Not something I've ever seen another municipality undertake. And then they issued an RFP for developers. They ended up getting about 17 responses, most of which were from high-quality development teams, selected a developer, negotiated in the middle part of the decade. And then between 2006 and 2009, construction started. Now, it certainly was helpful that they ended up being there as the wave was going up, as opposed to when the wave was coming down. But what they ended up with now, you've got 189 residential units, very high quality, and 70,000 square feet of retail space. So let's look and see kind of what went right for the city. And I would say the first thing was that the city recognized that they needed to do something. So they initiated the feasibility study, initiated the plan. They actually adopted the plan. They did a TIF study. They adopted the TIF. The fact that the city controlled the land turned out to be very important in this case. So they definitely were able to say, this is what we want, this is what we don't want, and have control over that. Relocated the car dealer, which was obviously very important in terms of sales tax dollars, able to attract the high-quality developers. They had a very aggressive planning and economic development staff, and give kudos to Kim back there. And the fact that they were also flexible, recognizing like, okay, we had designed this for borders, but now we have to do something else. And I think that was important. And just the fact that they really had strong city council support, and that was something that you heard this morning, just being able to work with communities. So this turned out to be about a $120 million project. The city put in about $17 million in TIF money. That most of that went to a parking structure, stormwater detention, the relocation, and streetscape. And I would have to say this is probably one of the premier downtown redevelopments, infill developments in the Chicago metro area. So now let's see the tale of the other city. This is also, an affluent area. From 1995 to the present, at least 5 different planning studies were embarked on by the city. Not one of them was ever adopted, which is truly, ridiculous. Some of these were done in-house. Some of these, consultants were hired to work with them. And this turned out to be a really big problem, because then when developers come in, you have no formally adopted plan to be able to say, yeah, this meets our plan or this does not meet our plan. There are a number of a key downtown site, that car dealership, became available in 2005. a very highly sought after site because land just doesn't come available too often in this community. Very visible location, a lot of traffic, right by a train station. Developer purchased the site. Meanwhile, the car dealer went out of business there. So the city lost any revenue that was coming from that car dealer. So what went wrong in this case? And there were quite a few things that we can look back and point to. I think first of all is that this city never adopted any plans. They keep making plans, but nobody ever bothers to adopt them. Also, change in elected officials after some of these plans were done. And that tends to be, a really big red flag for developers who are working on projects because they're working with one group of people, they think they understand the way the winds are going to blow, and then all of a sudden there are new people that come in and we have to start back again. And, so this project, just gets prolonged. NIMBYism, I mean, I'm sure this is a factor for some of you people as well. So you had people who lived on the block, 2 blocks behind. It's like, oh my God, no. Again, we don't want anything. It's going to be too tall, and maybe it'll block a little of my sun, or, there are just so many things like that. Definite opposition to using any public funds. This is a community that has never done a TIF, and it's really rare to find any in Northern Illinois that have never done a TIF. And again, they just felt that we are too good a place, and if you want to come in, so be it. And this protracted approval process, I mean, this just, caused the problems. I mean, if they had started this in 2005, they would have been able to market and get people to sign enough contracts so they could start construction. So now we look at sort of what were the lessons that we learned from all of this, and I think, you all can probably name some of them at this point, but, we always hear location, 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 how important this is. And both of these communities, the locations of their communities were great, and the locations for development were great. However, that was only part of the equation there. And really, it's that leadership. And I think, you heard that before from some of the speakers this morning. It is just so critical. I just can't emphasize it enough that the cities that have been successful have leaders that are pushing things. And you can point to many communities that have good locations, they've got great demographics, that just things fall apart. So favorable demographics just cannot overcome, problem politics. Again, as I said, the plans have to be adopted. You need to have the regulatory teeth, because otherwise you open yourself to lawsuits, which then is costing your city a lot of money. And when it comes down to it, you can't please all of the people all the time. And so there may be some people who don't like this aspect of what's going to happen or that aspect, but in total, it makes a whole lot of sense and most people can get behind it. And then just lastly, you just don't want to be that community where the developers say life is too short to work there. And I've seen a lot of those kinds of communities.